your hands up, put your hands up, come on, put your hands up, are you ready?
The Pittsburgh Steelers take care of business against the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football and Ben Roethlisberger's final home game, we presume. He hasn't officially come out and said that, hey, I'm going to retire. But the way that he's been talking in press conferences has been, detailing that this was my final home game. And the way that he went out in fashion, able to get one more snap in, a kneel down in that victory. Najee Harris putting the dagger in that game in the AFC North. I mean, it belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals pretty much at this point. But the Steelers are still in playoff contention following that victory against the Cleveland Browns. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Time2Football. Glad you guys are able to join us. My name is Hassan Khan, the host of this channel that we like to call Time2Football. Glad you guys are able to join us for this wonderful, wonderful Tuesday morning. The second show that we have for 2021 on this episode of Time2Football. Hey, by the way, before we get into everything, on this episode, we're going to be talking about NFL news and notes. We're going to give you our Hungriest Player of the Week, and so on and so forth. But, we've been following the Antonio Brown situation pretty closely, and I think that in yesterday's episode, a lot of you guys gave a lot of good feedback on Antonio Brown and the whole situation. What do you think about it, and what's going on with the whole thing? I don't know if you saw this or not, but he was spotted at a Brooklyn Nets game yesterday, courtside, like in full, like he did not try to go incognito at all. Dude, the man is doing whatever the freak he wants, and he does not care about anything. I think that is freaking hilarious. It's hilarious. He could say like, "Oh no, it's sad. Like he has mental health issues." And dude, I don't want to say I don't care about him. I do, but like, he's doing whatever he wants. That's hilarious, man. I saw him at that Nets game. I could not. I just laughed. I laughed. I was like, what the heck is going on with this guy? That was incredible. So Antonio Brown, leave your thoughts in your comments down below if you think that, I don't think there's any more opinions on this. I think he just, he's going through something right now. I don't know. I don't know the whole situation, but we will get you guys caught up on NFL news and notes here in just a bit. But first, what we do on the show every Tuesday, we name our, you could say, Player of the Week award, but it's not just any regular Player of the Week award. As a matter of fact, what we call it is the Hungriest Player of the Week. Hungriest Player of the Week, the one that wanted it the most. Now, I say this isn't really necessarily the player with the best stats. This isn't necessarily someone like Cam Jordan, who went out and had 3.5 sacks, right, in that game against the Carolina Panthers. This isn't Jamar Chase even, 3-touchdown game, 266 yards, setting a franchise record for a rookie wide receiver. I'm not saying that they're not deserving of the award. They are. They absolutely are. However, we got to lean in towards a player that wants it the most. That's why it's called the Hungriest Player of the Week. And the player that really wanted it the most in Week 17, can't go wrong with Ben Roethlisberger. 123 yards passing, not significant. 23 out of 46, 50% of his passes completed, not significant. A touchdown, an interception, not significant. But it was his final home game of his career. And I think that is deserving of putting you in the contention of winning the Hungriest Player of the Week award because, you wanted it the most. You wanted to go out there. You wanted to win your last home game of your career. And Ben Roethlisberger did just that. Threw a touchdown to Deontay Johnson. Congrats to Deontay for being the last home receiving touchdown for Ben Roethlisberger. And then Najee Harris was able to put the dagger in and seal it for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, by the way, if you guys play Prize Picks, which I've been talking about on the show, I put in $15 on a 4-player entry for the second half, right? I said that Najee Harris was going to get under like 9.5 fantasy points, Ben Roethlisberger under this, Baker Mayfield over like 90 passing yards, something like that, right? In the second half. Everyone hit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to win $60. This is awesome. This is awesome. Well, Najee Harris, 3rd and 2. Steelers had the ball. All they had to do was get a first down, not even get a touchdown. Just get a first down, and the game is over. You get to kneel it. Nah, Najee decides to run it in for a touchdown, 37-yard touchdown. The Cleveland Browns couldn't stop it for 37 yards. And instead of winning $60, I won $750. But still, like, I could have, I don't know. Hey, it happens. It happens sometimes. Anyways, but Ben Roethlisberger, hungriest player of the week, the one that wanted it the most. What we're going to be talking about on today's episode of Time2Football, if we pull up the topic bar right here, we just talked about the hungriest player of the week. We've got the NFL news and notes segment that we're going to be talking about later on here, actually in just a couple of seconds. We've got the power rankings that we're going to be updating you guys because we usually update you guys on power rankings on Wednesday, but tomorrow's episode of Time2Football, it's going to be a very special one. It's going to be a fantasy football award ceremony. That's right. We dress up. We look real nice. We do this every year, and we're going to give out, like waiver of the year, biggest draft steal, biggest draft bust, and there's a lot of other awards out there as well that we're going to be giving out. And then after we update you guys on the power rankings, we're going to take a few minutes to interact with the guys in the live chat. Actually, as a matter of fact, as you guys are tuning in right now, Israel saying hi at quarterback, Rodgers, Burrow, or Lamar Jackson. Israel, I hate to disappoint you. We don't answer fantasy football starts and sits questions. It's a new year, new me. I am not doing that. So if you want to tune out of the live show, go ahead and do that. Uzi saying, I won my league. Let's go. Dude, congratulations. Congrats. I know a lot of you guys were kind of concerned because you were saying like, oh, I have the Browns defense, but I'm playing like Deontay Johnson. I don't know if I'm going to win or not. And if you did play the Browns defense, I think Deontay Johnson scored more points than the Browns defense. But anyways, based off of like what I was seeing in the comments yesterday, based off of how much ahead you were against your opponent, based off of which players you had left to play, it sounded like most of you guys probably won your fantasy championship. So congratulations to you guys that did that. Sasuke saying, Ola, I won my first championship, baby. I only need 17 for my first pick in the 21 fantasy football. And yes, Najee Harris. Oh, you just needed 17 points to win your championship, it seems like you're saying. And then Najee Harris. Okay, so it's good that he got that touchdown, right? That was probably like Najee Harris with that touchdown either upset a lot of people or he made a lot of people happy. Whether it be fantasy football championships, whether it be like you put money on him like I did. Just a lot of things, right? Najee Harris just, that 37-yard touchdown run, like altered so many people. Like it affected so many people in the most crucial week of fantasy football ever. So that's take it how you want. But Najee Harris, either you hate him or you love him after that. Thank you, bro. Greetings from California. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, Sasuke. NFL news and notes that we're going to be getting you guys caught up on. By the way, I have this video pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and show this real quick because I thought it was pretty crazy. I don't know if you saw over this past weekend, but Jalen Hurts almost died from what we saw. Where is? Okay, I say that exact. Like I probably shouldn't joke about that, right? But let's just go ahead and show you what I'm talking about right here. All right. Let me pull this up. Okay, cool. That's allowed. All right. He's just walking, right? He's just walking. Let me do some commentary over this. Just walking. Wait for it. Oh, everybody fell. Oh, everyone fell. Here, hold on. Let me go ahead and remove that topic bar that's in the way, and let me go ahead and show you guys again because that was crazy. So let me go ahead and put up here. All right. So he's just walking in the tunnel, oh, everybody fell. Hey, Washington. Your railings, they need to be fixed. Hey, Washington, in a statement, By the way, the Eagles fans, awesome. Like how they're just hugging up Jalen Hurts and everything. Hey, Washington, you know what's crazy? Your railings. That's what's crazy. They tried to injure their franchise running back or quarterback, the Philadelphia Eagles. They were like, hey, we're not going to make the NFL playoffs, but we're going to make sure that you guys don't make it in. They got Gardner Minshew anyways. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Pretty crazy to see. They released a statement, Washington did. And you know what's funny is in that statement, they pulled a Bill Clinton. And when I say they pulled a Bill Clinton, they never said, I'm sorry. They never said, I apologize. Never. Never. So they didn't want to take responsibility for it. They said, we're going to look into the incident and see what happened. That's what Bill Clinton did, right? With the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. Anyways, NFL news and notes that we have for you guys, for you 6 people that are tuning in. By the way, the live show viewership is going to drop down dramatically because they just wanted to ask me starts and sits questions, but I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that, so people just tune out. So for the 6 people that are tuning in regularly and are loyal, yes, I appreciate it. This is kind of like a dead period right now where we talk about NFL playoff football because people don't really care about that for some reason, even though the playoffs are much better than fantasy football. But it's going to pick back up once we start making more and more videos. So yeah, unfollow, unsubscribe if you'd like. If you just want to get fantasy football numbers or your questions answered, because I ain't doing that. NFL news and notes. So we got to talk about who's been placed on the COVID-19 list and who's been activated off the COVID-19 list. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles. You just want to talk about Jalen Hurts taking a sack, almost dying, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, it just gets worse and worse with COVID-19 because they've been placed on that COVID-19 list. 12 Philadelphia Eagles players have been placed on that list. Some big names as well, including Dallas Goedert, Boston Scott, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, Jordan Howard, Avonte Maddox, Ronnie McLeod, Jordan Howard. Oh, I already mentioned Jordan Howard, and Alex Singleton. Those are big name players. Alex Singleton in the defense and the linebacker. Secondary, you got McLeod, you got Avonte Maddox, and then on the offensive line, you got, or in the trenches, really, Jason Kelsey on the offense, Fletcher Cox in the defense, and then the running backs, really. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard on that COVID-19 list. Listen, if those players are on the COVID-19 list and Miles Sanders is not healthy after a hand injury, all of a sudden you got Kenneth Gainwell now acting as the number 1 back. Now, it's good that the NFL changed the quarantine rules to where, hey, instead of 10 days, if you're unvaccinated, you can go down to 5 days. So it kind of helps the players get back quicker. So more than likely, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, those guys are going to be playing this weekend. However, if the NFL did not change the rules, you could have seen Kenneth Gainwell being the number 1 back for the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. The Las Vegas Raiders rookie cornerback Nate Dobbs has been arrested because of a DUI. So this is the only reason why we mention this, because he's a rookie and somewhat of an impactful player for the Las Vegas Raiders defense. He's been arrested for a DUI. His status with the team, I mean, they're still kind of looking into it. But for a team that's been going through so much and they don't want to deal with any DUI issues after Henry Ruggs, you got to see how they're going to respond based off of that. I mean, you already cut Damon Arnett because of like a video of him holding a gun or something like that. I don't know. So, I mean, another DUI issue where you have some PR, public relations issues going on where you have some pressure like, hey, we got to get rid of this guy. That could happen. Unfortunately. Okay. So this was actually pretty interesting. That I'm going to pull up a video again on Twitter. And I say this is interesting because a reporter asked Mike Zimmer whether or not Kellen Mond is going to be playing this weekend for the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings already had a playoff contention. Kirk Cousins is going to be coming back off the COVID-19 list, but they don't have anything to really play for. So at this point, you're like, okay, maybe. I mean, I understand the reporter's side. Hey, maybe there's a chance that Kellen Mond could come into this game and have some snaps for the Minnesota Vikings. This was actually Mike Zimmer's response to that question. Check this out.
Gonna look at Mond next week?
Not particularly.
Mike, why don't you again look at him?
I see him every day.
Do you think you want to get a look at
Let me
Mond
play that
next
back.
week?
Not particularly.
Mike, why don't you again look at him?
I see him every day.
Burn. So if you couldn't hear that because of the audio, pretty much it was, would you like to see Kellen Mond this weekend? And then Mike Zimmer said, not particularly. And then he said, or the reporter asked, why don't you want to see him? And then Mike Zimmer responded by saying, I see him every day. So it's looking like Kellen Mond is not really impressing in practice at that point, and that was kind of a dig by Mike Zimmer. But, if I'm in Mike Zimmer's shoes, I kind of understand because selfishly, I'm probably playing for my job, right? I don't know if I'm going to be retained or not. So why not just play the best players out there, like give Kirk Cousins a chance? Why would I look ahead to the future if I don't even know myself if I'm going to be a part of that future? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, Kellen Mond is not going to be playing this weekend. The Washington football team, big news, is going to be revealing their new name and their new logo this year. February 2nd, just a month from now, before the Super Bowl, they're going to be revealing their new logo and their new team name. Now, according to a statement by the Washington football team, a lot of people wanted the Wolves and the Red Wolves. Like, those are two names that they were pushing for the Washington football team to at least consider it. And in a statement, they said, we're going to be revealing our name February 2nd. However, we wanted to consider the Wolves and the Red Wolves because of like the fans really loving the names. So we wanted to consider it because it was a fan favorite. However, because of liabilities and trademarks and issues like that, like we couldn't get the Wolves name to be passed. So they're not going to be called the Wolves. They're not going to be called the Red Wolves. So the Washington football team instead, more than likely, I think it's come down to like 6 when I was reading it earlier, back last year, when it was saying like, oh, it could be the Armada, which is dumb name. The Washington Generals, I think, was another one, which is okay, that's decent. It's not the best, but there was also the Commanders. I'm like, how nerdy are we getting here? What else was there? The Warriors are out. They're not going to be called the Washington Warriors. The Washington football team could also be a name that they could stick with. But I think if they made this announcement like, hey, on February 2nd, we're going to be revealing our new team logo, they're not sticking with the Washington football team. They're going in a different direction. But that is your NFL news and notes for today. Hey, leave a comment down below. What do you think the Washington football team should be named? Wrong answers only. All right, now we're going to be talking about power rankings here in just a bit. And what we do is we start off with 25 through 32, stop, talk about it. Move to 17 through 24, stop, talk about it. Then we go at 8 at a time, all the way from 1 through 8, the Elite 8. How have the power rankings changed following Week 17 when we close the chapter and looking ahead at Week 18? So first, let's start off with Week 17, post-Week 17 power rankings, 25 through 32. Let's read off those teams, right? We've got the Bears at 25, the Broncos at 26, Panthers 27, Texans 28, Lions 29, Giants 30, Jets 31, and the Jaguars at 32. Okay, so this changed because the Bears and the Broncos kind of flipped spaces because the Bears won and the Broncos lost. The Broncos, the record says they're 7-9, but I mean they are playing like they are a 4-12 team at this point. So the Bears moving on up after a good defensive showing and good offensive showing, actually, by David Montgomery and company in that game against the New York Giants. Now going to 17 through 24, a couple of these teams are still in playoff contention, but at this point, yeah, you probably miss the playoffs, right? It's going to be very, very tough to make the postseason. Not counting them out, anything could happen, but they are the odd man's out. So not really huge changes here because a lot of these teams lost this past weekend. But let's go ahead and read off 17 through 24. We've got the Ravens at 17, 18 Dolphins, 19 Saints, 20 Browns, 21 Vikings, 22 the Washington football team, the Red Wolves, 23 the Falcons, and 24 the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, no changes because Dolphins lost, Saints lost, Browns lost, Vikings lost, Washington lost, Falcons. Like all these teams lost, including the Ravens, but they keep on dropping down the power rankings. I know that they lost to the Rams, which is like a good team, so they shouldn't drop 5 spots, but when we show you the 9 through 16 window, it's going to make sense. Like you had to make room for the other teams because in between the Ravens and this number 17 spot, there were a lot of teams that won, so you had to push them up over the Ravens. But let's go ahead and show you the 9 through 16 window, and these are teams that have either already clinched a playoff spot or have a good shot at clinching a spot this weekend. Let's go ahead and show you those teams. We've got the Bills at 9, the Cincinnati Bengals, a top 10 team at 10, 11 49ers, Colts 12, 13 Chargers, Raiders 14, 15 Steelers, and 16 Eagles. Okay, so now it makes a little bit more sense on why the Ravens dropped because, I mean, the Steelers beat them earlier this season. The Eagles, they clinched a playoff spot. The Raiders are looking good, winning 3 straight. The Chargers moving on up. And, you know, the 49ers and the Bengals, man, they've been impressive. They're worthy of a top 10 team right now. I wanted to put them inside of the top 8, but I was like, the Bills, they didn't lose, so I'm not going to put them over the Bills at this point. The Colts keep on dropping. I mean, they lost to the Raiders, even though they won great games against the Patriots and the Cardinals. Against the Raiders, man, that's kind of pulling you down a little bit because they're still ranked at 14, the Raiders. I still think the Colts at the end of the day might have a little bit more talent, but that's why I have them ranked ahead. But I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that the Colts are going to be at number 12 for now. All right, the Elite 8, 1 through 8. Let's start off from 8 and read on up to number 1. 8, the Patriots. 7, the Cowboys. 6, Chiefs. 5, Titans. 4, Rams. 3, Cardinals. 2, Buccaneers. And number 1, the Green Bay Packers. Okay, the changes that happen here. The Chiefs, they lose their top seed in the AFC with that loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. We had to drop them 3 spots. That's a lot. That's a lot for just a narrow loss, last-minute field goal by Evan McPherson. But the reason we dropped 3 spots is because the Cardinals won against the Dallas Cowboys, one of the best teams in the NFL, so they had to move on up, right? The Rams won. The Titans are now the number 1 seed in the AFC. So if they're the number 1 team in the AFC, you'd have to put them over any other AFC team, right? I would assume. The Patriots stay at number 8. The Cowboys only drop 1 spot after that loss to the Arizona Cardinals. But yeah, these are my top 8 teams right now for our power rankings. Again, I have the Bills and the Bengals like on the border of being 2 teams that are worthy of being in the top 8, but there's just not a lot of room right now. Unless one of these teams like were to choke towards the end of the season, and then you'd have the other teams move on up. But yeah, leave your comments and your thoughts down below. Like, what do you think of these power rankings? Who would you rank up higher? Who would you rank lower? Love to interact with you guys in the live chat. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you guys or take a moment to talk to you guys in the live chat. We're going to dedicate a few minutes just talking with the best viewers in the world about what's going on in the NFL. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Damien, hey, Hassan. Happy Tuesday, my friend. Love the show. Damien, I love that you tune in all the time. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for tuning in. You got people talking about fantasy football here. I lost this year, but thanks to everything this year. On to next year, going to stay active on your channel when I can. Okay, yeah, I've been saying this. I mean, we probably get like more and more viewers, different viewers tuning in and out. So if you catch us at this time, you didn't hear this earlier on a different live show. Yeah, this offseason, we're straying away from fantasy football starts and sits more than likely next season. So if you only care about that, go ahead, unsubscribe. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But this offseason, we're going to do fantasy football rankings, like starting from the start of free agency all throughout the offseason and giving you like a weekly, bi-weekly update on our rankings and keeping you guys updated with offseason news and how that affects our rankings. So for instance, we could say like, oh, next year we predict based off the stats and the trends in the last 2 years and who they signed in free agency and the draft and everything, we think Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for 5,000 yards, right? Well, in the offseason, if you hear news about like, oh, Travis Kelce has not been looking great in offseason. He's been dropping every ball that he's had thrown his way. He's just looked absolutely terrible. Could lose his starting job. Not going to happen, but like just for this scenario. Then we're thinking to ourselves like, okay, that happened this past week. That was an NFL news and note that happened this last week. How does that affect Patrick Mahomes? Well, instead of him throwing 5,000 yards, with Travis Kelce not doing that good, we predict him not to do good this year in 2022. Patrick Mahomes, instead of throwing 5,000, he's probably only going to throw like 4,700. Like our rankings and our stats are going to drop every single week, change. Players' projections are going to go up and down based off the news that you hear in the offseason. That's why this channel, you need to keep up with it because there are so many offseason news that I kept up with throughout the season, and it made our ranking sheet so accurate because of those offseason news. So that's what you guys want to keep up with. Good day. I won the championship. James Stark, yeah, you were talking about. I saw your comment on the video, and I think I commented before this live show where you said you're up 234 to 168. Which like, is this a super flex league? Because that's a lot. And then he just had Nick Chubb left to play. Dude, congrats on your championship. I love that. I'm in a dynasty league. Talking about another league. I'm in a dynasty league that I lost the championship, but Hassan, could you do some videos on prospects that we should be looking at the draft next year? I don't watch college football. Yeah, I don't watch college football either, but I can go ahead and tell you, well, I can't tell you like which prospects are going to be good, but like after the draft and based off of what you hear in OTAs, that gives you a great indication of who's going to be great. Like for instance, Jamar Chase, like we called him to be a top 10 receiver in fantasy football. And we didn't watch college football. Like I watch the big games like the Final Four and the championship, and I watch like the players in there. Like for instance, this past weekend I was watching Alabama and Cincinnati, seeing like the prospects in that game, Georgia, Michigan. But like the reason we knew that Jamar Chase was going to have such a successful season was because we were keeping up with OTA news, keeping up with the chemistry that he had with Joe Burrow, and just looking at the trends of who they bring in free agency, who they brought in the draft, and how many times really is he going to be targeted, and is he going to be a good asset to the team? So it's just based off of OTAs and practice. And then like a couple of years prior to that, we actually called Justin Jefferson to be a breakout as well. And it's just off-season news, man. You don't need to watch college football. You really don't. It's just keep up with OTAs. The beat reporters are going to update you guys on players, and then you'll know. And I'm here to be that liaison. Is that the right word? Liaison. That's a fancy word. To help communicate with you guys and say, hey, this is what I read up on. This is what you need to know. What's up, bro? Bengals are looking scary. That Burrow to Chase connection is lethal. Yes. Kicks plug. Absolutely. Absolutely freaking lethal. Like, the last two games for Joe Burrow have been great. For Jamar Chase, even, like, you probably don't know about this, but in that game against the Baltimore Ravens, it was a big T. Higgins day, but Jamar Chase had over 100 receiving yards. So, yeah, it's looking scary good, and I mean, they went from being dark horse contenders to legitimate Super Bowl contenders. They were a team that people were like, hey, don't sleep on the Bengals. And people thought like, oh, okay, Bengals are your surprise team. Okay, yeah, they can make the Super. And now it's like, hey, don't sleep on the Bengals. Why would I be sleeping on the Bengals? The Bengals just beat the best team in the AFC. So the Bengals, Super Bowl contenders. Jordan saying, can you explain why Google says Eagles clinch wild card if they have a tied record with 49ers? Can you not have two wild cards in one division? Please explain on my smooth brain. Yeah, so it's kind of confusing, but it's based off a tiebreaker. So the tiebreaker, if teams have the same record, then the tiebreaker is head-to-head record. And the 49ers did beat the Eagles earlier this season, but I think the Saints, if I'm not mistaken, beat the 49ers. I'm not positive on that. Let me go ahead and look that up. The Saints, 49ers. I got you. Yes, 27-13. Oh, no, that was back in 2020. The Saints and 49ers did not play this year? I thought the NFC South played the NFC West. Or did they just play the Seattle Seahawks on Monday night? I don't know. Anyways, it's tiebreakers, right? So the Eagles beat the Saints. So even if the Eagles lose and the Saints win, the Saints cannot surpass the Eagles in the playoffs, right? For the 49ers and the 49ers beat the Eagles, but the 49ers have not clinched yet because of a tiebreaker with the Saints. Like if the Saints win and the 49ers lose, I think it's based off a conference record at that point, like who beat more opponents in the NFC. And if the 49ers lose and the Saints win, then the Saints have more opponents or more games won than the 49ers, and the 49ers would be out, the Saints would be in, and the Eagles would not be out because, oh gosh, it would be like a three-way tie or something like that. Like if they're all 9-8, it would be a three-way tie, and the Eagles would have the. It's confusing. I'm sorry. I didn't do a great job explaining that, but all you need to know: Eagles clinched. They can't make it in, or they can't lose their wild card spot, and the Saints and the 49ers are competing for that last wild card spot because of conference opponents, and that is the tiebreaker. So if the Saints win, Eagles lose, or 49ers lose, Saints go in. First year playing fantasy football, first year winning a championship. Do 1 for 1. 1 for 1. Let's make it 2 for 2 next year, man. Let's make it 2 for 2. Went to the semifinals in 3 out of 5 leagues. Went to the fantasy Super Bowl in 2 out of 3 of those leagues, and went 1-1 in the Super Bowl thanks to you. No, that's you, man. That is freaking you. And I am beating a dead horse right now, but I am setting up some optimism for you guys, for you 13 people. Forget like all the other 21,000 people that are subscribed and not tuning in right now. Just the 13 people right now, you're getting like an insight information right now that what we're doing this offseason is going to help you out so much, so freaking much. Like, I am excited. Like, stay tuned for the offseason. It's just only going to be like, you don't have to watch all the other videos, but even if it's just like, I don't know what day I'm going to come out with fantasy football updates for like offseason news and stuff like that. But if it's like a Friday, a Thursday, just watch once a week, once every other week, whatever. Watch that video. Just hear about what's going on in the news, how that affects fantasy football, and you'll be fine. You will be fine. It's about drafting the team, man. It's about drive. It's about power. Also, will you do any Madden content in the offseason? I think you have asked me before in the live chat and in the in some comments. Yes, yeah. So I'm gonna do. I've got one idea. I have to think about it. I don't know how to go about it because it's kind of complex. But I have one idea involving Madden, and then I have another idea involving Madden, but that's going to be mainly TikTok that I'm going to be coming out with those videos. So if you want to follow me at Time2Football on TikTok, it's just going to be Madden rebuilds, like 1-minute videos on every team, every single team in the NFL, and just be like, hey, here are the free agents for 2022. How can we rebuild the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? And we may do that for YouTube. But they're only going to be like 1-minute clips that I'm going to be putting up for every team. So 32 clips. Yeah, I'll be doing Madden content. Don't worry about that. I believe the Super Bowl will be Tampa Bay versus New England. I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see it. And I'm sorry, Tampa Bay fans. I'm sorry, Tom Brady fans. I would love to see Bill Belichick beat Tampa Bay. It's not because I hate Tom Brady. I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. I've grown up watching Tom Brady. He got me to fall in love with football. I love Tom Brady. But I think that at this point, I just know a couple of Tom Brady fans that are only Tom Brady fans, and they're not a fan of an NFL team. So for instance, like, hey, I'm a LeBron James fan. I go for whatever team LeBron James is on. That's the same thing with Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Like, I've known people that have been New England Patriots fans, and when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, they became Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. I'm like, where's your loyalty? I know some loyal New England Patriots fans. Larry, if you're watching, shout out to you. But other people, man, nah, dude. Nah, I hate that. So because of that, that's the only reason I'm like, I hope Bill Belichick wins. I hope he wins. Not because I don't want to see Tom Brady himself win an 8th Super Bowl. I just want to, Tom Brady fans that are bandwagoners. Oh my gosh, man. It's the worst. Absolute worst. Chiefs versus Green Bay could also be a Super Bowl. Yeah, okay. That was a Super Bowl that we wanted to see last year. I think a lot of people wanted to see that. Green Bay ended up losing by 1 possession to Tampa Bay because of a blown coverage by, Kevin King against Scotty Miller. But that would be great. And the Packers actually don't have anything to play for, but Aaron Rodgers still wants to play in this game in Week 18 against the Detroit Lions. Probably helping out his MVP numbers. That's probably why. Feeling on the Bills from Cole. The run game is getting a little better. Yeah, Devin Singletary, you may not have realized, had over 100 rushing yards last week. Hey, another guy you probably did not realize, did you know that Saquon Barkley ran for over 100 rushing yards against the Chicago Bears? That offense was terrible. That game was unwatchable, but Saquon had over 100. Him and Devin Singletary, you probably would have noticed, but they had over 100 rushing yards in that game. And, the run game is getting better, and I think it's because they finally, hey, enough of this, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, which one are we going to go with? Let's run with Josh Allen instead. And they're still going to be running with Josh Allen. They're still going to be taking snaps away from Devin Singletary, but they're finally getting to the groove of hey, we have one main guy, that's Devin Singletary, who's good as a catcher and as a rusher. Yeah, this run game is looking better. I actually came out with a video last week of the 5 most well-rounded teams in the NFL, and the Buffalo Bills were kind of low on that list. They were still on the list, but they were kind of low because of the run game, the lack of the run game. But now that they got the run game going, on defense they're good, on offense they're good. Bills can make a strong push in the AFC playoff race. Cole saying, great content, dude. Subscribe last year. Use your stats to win the ship. Hey. More beating on the dead horse. The stats, the rankings. You guys that drafted Jalen Hurts, Jamar Chase, DeAndre Swift, Deebo Samuel over Brandon Ayuk, Dalton Schultz as a starting tight end. Congrats. Congrats to you. When everybody else was saying, don't draft those guys, you did. Congrats to you guys. Now for you guys that drafted Antonio Gibson. Gosh, that was one player I got wrong. Antonio Gibson. I thought he was going to be a top 5 fantasy running back, but he was dealing with injuries. I think hurt his status, but he didn't finish. I think he finished even with him missing that game as the RB13. I want to say. So he wasn't terrible. He was pretty good. Top 15 running back. Probably not a first rounder like I projected, but a second round running back. Yeah, not bad. Just curious, why do you think Cleveland didn't use Chubb more often last night? I have no idea. Chubb has not been utilized in the last 4 weeks. And it's because of, I want to say it's because I think they're just trailing by so much that they're just hey, let's just pass the ball with Baker Mayfield. But the passing numbers for Baker Mayfield has not been great. And you do need to realize that Chubb is your main offense. The run game is your main offense. Let's lean on that. There's been some games this year that they've done that against the Denver Broncos on Thursday Night Football where Dearness Johnson went off. This is a run-first team no matter who's the running back in that backfield. But for some reason, I don't know. They were down. They wanted to. That play-action pass to Harrison Bryant at the 1-yard line should pretty much sum it up to where, hey, that should have been a Nick Chubb rushing touchdown. I'm glad he didn't get that rushing touchdown because I would have lost money. I put some money on some players if you guys didn't tune in during the beginning of the show. And if Nick Chubb scored that touchdown, I would have lost money. But Harrison Bryant getting that touchdown kind of shows you hey, why are we doing this? Let's just run it in. Let's just run it in. Nick Chubb is our guy. Even if we're down by 2 possessions like they were yesterday, Nick Chubb can get you 5, 6, 7 yards. A carry could break off for a 13, 14, 20-yard run, whatever. He's your offense. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here on this episode of Time to Football, but I'm very, very glad that you guys are joining us for this episode. And make sure you guys subscribe and are staying up to date with everything going on in the off season. We've got so many episodes planned for you guys. Hey, tomorrow is a very wonderful show. We've got Fantasy Football Awards ceremony. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be amazing. We're going to interact with you guys in the live chat. With all that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Fantasy Football Award Show tomorrow, and Antonio Brown does whatever he wants.